Welcome to the Christopher Peter Review, your source of common-sense commentary on salient current events. Joe Biden has suspended his presidential campaign and will not seek a second term as President of the United States. In doing so, Biden endorsed his Vice President Kamala Harris to replace him as the Democratic Party's nominee, a little over a week after the ballot was almost tragically changed. The 2024 will officially be altered by the candidate who said he was the best one to win, but could not defeat a rebellion from his own caucus. Let us begin this special episode of the Christopher Peter Review. Joe Biden finally came to the same conclusion that fellow Democratic leaders reached recently, if not long before. Joe Biden finally was forced to acknowledge that he is not fit to run for a second term in office, which was made abundantly clear by his recent performance at the first presidential debate. Setting aside the fact that his record as president may have also disqualified him for a second term even if deemed healthy enough to continue in the race. The debate performance greatly impacted not only the polling trajectory of Biden versus Trump, but the down-ballot races for both houses of Congress and any race where Democrats would be required to run on Biden's record and status of leader of the party. Therefore, prominent Democrats joined the party's effort to historically boot their party leader in hopes to have a fighting chance of protecting the slate of candidates from a red wave that some predicted 2 years earlier. The debate performance was bad, but it was not an isolated incident, despite what the media, fellow Democrats at the moment, and party surrogates would like you to believe. Joe Biden acted in manners that made people believe he lost some capacity, wandering off during a memorial event of D-Day, awkward mannerism during a June 10th event, not to mention a host of other events that occurred throughout his time in office. Unlike any president in recent history, Joe Biden was managed. During press conferences, Biden had lists of reporters to call on. I would assume the ones that made the list were willing to provide sets of questions ahead of time, so that the administration could create prescripted answers for the aging leader. He did not take questions from reporters following media events, breaking traditions of presidents who would speak freely with the press at times. I cannot say that he was the only president in our history with this problem. I am sure that President Franklin Roosevelt had similar assistance while he was struggling with polio, which he succumbed to during his fourth term in office. But that was a much different era than the one where technology makes information travel fast. Yet, the prevailing response to concerns were met with claims that the public's perception was wrong, or the ideas of the fringe. The same people that joined the rebellion to push Biden from the nomination were the same people that consistently made public claims that Biden was sharp and quick-witted during meetings they had with him. A stark contrast to the sentiment that he is no longer fit for the nomination, and potentially for the office for the next 6 months. On his way out of the campaign, Biden endorses his Vice President Kamala Harris to take his place as party nominee, a politician who has some questionable beginnings and a clear lack of success as the number 2 in government.
For a long time, Joe Biden claimed that he was the only candidate the Democratic Party had that could beat Donald Trump. And that may still be true, even considering the situation and obvious fact that he is no longer fit to make the fight. While clearly lacking capacity, Biden was really the last modern Democrat not put to pasture by the progressive sect of the party, who continually grows misaligned with the broadest sect of the American electorate. For financial reasons, primarily for the $100+ in millions in the bank, Kamala Harris will be the nominee for the Democratic Party. I doubt that Gavin Newsom would risk jumping into this situation. Other potential contenders are probably better off waiting until 2028, when they can make a full presidential run, if and when Harris comes up short. Kamala Harris ran against Joe Biden and made a poignant quip against her future boss, but did very little afterwards, suspending her campaign shortly afterwards. But Joe Biden wanted to fulfill his promise to his base, reviving her usefulness to the party. If you believe some of the statements out there about her, she seems to advance in politics without really accomplishing much, but having the right timing. And we kind of saw her lack of ability in her role as vice president, when she came up short each and every time she was given a visible task by Biden. She was tasked with handling the issues with the southern border, and blundered that completely. She never really visited the border, but she never went to Europe at that point either. When she went to Europe, she gave a couple weirdly delivered speeches. She is going to be the nominee because of the money, and because Democrats will turn to race and gender themes to try to shift the national conversation away from the record she will have to defend. She provides them an argument to secure the progressive base that has been groomed to look at identity before qualifications. While Harris was polling better than Biden against Trump, in the sense that she was less points down than Biden was, she still will have a long-shot campaign, because she is highly unlikable for many, and really is part of the progressive sect that many are turned off by. One aspect Biden had in 2020 was the fact that he was a center-left and was not a progressive by nature. The predictable path forward for Harris will probably be to try the anti-Trump angle and embrace the progressive mantle. But many Americans are moving away from that viewpoint, and the combination of policy and person will provide an uphill challenge. The dynamic does not change with a change in the Democratic nominee. For Trump and his base, the case is still against more than Biden, but the agenda that will still be championed by Harris or any other Democrat that becomes the nominee. The dynamic will still be the evolved MAGA agenda that many are more open to against the progressive agenda that has created real harm in many of our communities, fostered division amongst all Americans, and regresses our economic, diplomatic, and societal interests.
While I might agree with the assessment that Joe Biden is no longer fit to run for a second term as President of the United States and may not be fit to continue as President, I do not think we can overlook the fact that so many entities had to contribute to the cover-up to attempt to pull the wool over the eyes of many Americans. To be clear, I think there was a good amount of Americans who were not falling for the narrative sold to them. While they might not like Trump, there are many Democrat voters who could not deny what they were seeing. Some I heard from were concerned well before the debate or the other recent public incidents. But the narrative that many maintained was that Joe Biden was in full capacity and that he was fit for a run for a second term as president. For quite some time, the Biden administration and their enablers clearly lied to the public. There is no real reason to believe that Biden was quick-witted or sharp, and that this is an all-of-a-sudden rapid decline. Especially after the pattern of events that Americans saw firsthand and were told to not believe their lying eyes. What was very interesting over the past few weeks since the debate was the complete turn by those who now had much to lose with the dementia cat out of the bag. All the people who distanced themselves from the lies they told to the American public. The media did a complete 180 as they started to cover non-stop the obvious decline of Joe Biden. Now that they could not hide it anymore. For 3+ years, the societal fact-checkers conveniently did not acknowledge what many Americans were seeing firsthand. Now, the media is somewhat complicit in the whole cover-up, because it decided to not cover what was obviously a real concern. Many feel like the media likes to play kingmaker, and acknowledging that they played a role in putting a man with declining capacity in the catbird seat for the presidency is not a good look for an institution that the American public still does not trust. The capacity of a sitting president, regardless of the party, is an important issue for society. How can the public really trust any of the potential Democrat replacements because they were all playing their role in this cover-up, until it did not benefit them personally and politically? That is not a good look for a potential president, and not a good look for a party that wants to retake Congress. Democrats put power over all, but the public should be a bit concerned of how well they can trust anything that the party says. Ideally, the Democrats would have been honest and actually primaried the now lame duck Joe Biden. The prolonged rebellion again? Joe Biden by his party and the forced acknowledgement that he is not fit for the job in the future, let alone now, is probably a worse fate than if he would have lost the nomination in a full primary. Joe Biden will not ride off as a champion. For many, he was the single-handed worst-performing president based on record who probably was not fit for office from the very beginning. There was not much that went right during his time in office. The economy is clearly underperforming. The world is facing 2 wars while NATO wants to pat itself on the back, and our society is being torn apart by crime, division, and poor progressive public policy. Not an America built back better. A big thank you to all of you in the audience. Your viewership is appreciated and valued. As I have said many times, I think there is a level of gratitude owed to anyone who serves our nation, regardless of political party or ideological leaning. We should thank Joe Biden for his service to America, but we now need to focus on what is next. America needs an economy that allows the people to create opportunities not limited to the political agendas by those in power. Our institutions and security protocols are not working and need reform. Our communities need to find solutions to reduce crime rather than reducing prosecution and crime reporting. It is really strange to think that it was even possible that Joe Biden could leave a society much worse than he found it, given the fact that he came into office during a pandemic where everyone was still stuck at home. Please further the Christopher Peter Review on social media, and continue to visit www.crcreview.com for new episodes. Thank you once again. Until next time.